Kyler Murray and Geoff returned to the Cardinals, and they remain legit Super Bowl contenders here, guys, after knocking off the Bears. So Arizona scored twice in the first quarter. Arizona is a game up now for the top seed in the NFC with a win total on the DraftKings Sportsbook here, guys, sitting at 13.5. So a two-part question. How much do you like the Cardinals to go over that mark at plus 115 odds? And do you think they'll need to get the 14 wins in order to hold off the Bucs and Packers for that first-round bye, Geoff?
I think the Cardinals are a good team. Obviously, we know that they've won games without Kyler Murray. I don't want to take this bet, though. We're essentially asking them to go 4-1 over their last 5 games, and they've got the Rams, Cowboys, Colts, and then you've got the last game where, you know, they may not need to win, and then they could rest their players against Seattle, who probably isn't smart enough to rest Russell Wilson. Maybe they don't care about resting him because he won't be back. Anyways, it just really works down to his scheduling thing with this line. I just don't think you're getting enough juice to take on all these tough teams, plus the fact that you may not even be getting their starters playing in the final game. No, I don't like this one. I do like the Cardinals long-term. They're probably still not getting enough respect in the futures. This is a very solid team that, like I said, has been winning without their best players all year.
Hey, Pearce, they're not getting enough juice. Do you agree with Geoff?
I'm not on board based on what we saw yesterday. That's great. They won. They beat the Bears. But if you look at 3 of those drives, one drive was 28 yards, one was 15 yards, one was 12 yards. They blew out the Bears because Andy Dalton was throwing these bad interceptions. They did have a 74-yard drive. They looked good in the no huddle. But again, that was aided by a big James Conner run and a big reception by James Conner. They looked okay. I think more of the talk should be about this defense. Robert Alford just does not get enough credit. He's been one of the highest PFF-graded cornerbacks in football. He missed all of last season because of a major injury, missed all of the season before that because of a major injury. And that's kind of the theme of this Cardinals defense, is that they've got a lot of guys that we don't expect to play well that are actually playing a little bit better, but they're not playing good enough to go on that kind of a run to be worth this bet.
I mean, they didn't need to really put together any of those sustained drives against the Bears. The Bears were just like crapping all over themselves, as you mentioned, all the interceptions there. Jules, how do you feel here? You think they need to get the 14 wins? They had a good bet, plus 115. You think they need to get the 14 wins to hold off the Packers and Bucs?
They might need to, but I'm kind of with Geoff here, just in terms of taking this now. You're betting on too much unknown. What we do know is that they're going to play 3 teams that are going to be motivated and need to win, that being the Rams, the Colts, and the Cowboys. Those teams are all going to be obviously trying to win those games for their own playoff hopes. The Lions are in there. I'll give them that W for sure. But it comes down to that Seahawks game. Arizona's probably going to win 13 or 14 games, but I'm not comfortable betting on it because, yes, that last game, if the Bucs or Packers do have a slip-up and it doesn't come down to it, to them needing to win, Arizona could absolutely rest everybody. And we saw yesterday, for some reason, Pete Carroll is absolutely jacked up to improve to 4-8. So maybe Seattle does try and win that game against all Arizona's second or third stringers. I just feel like I don't know enough. I can't predict enough of the future to want to invest in this.
Okay, let's see what you guys can predict, if anything, in the AFC North, because it's once again an absolute circus. Steelers shock the Ravens after John Harbaugh goes for 2, as the Ravens remain one of the most analytically savvy franchises in sports. The Bengals lose, and then the Browns were on bye. So it was a big opportunity for the Ravens there to take like a 2-game lead in the division. They do not. So the Steelers right back in this thing. Baltimore still has the lead in the division, still the favorite at minus 150, but the Steelers now at plus 1,400 to win the division. Tell me why you like that value for Pittsburgh, Pearce, or maybe you don't.
I don't like Pittsburgh, and I don't like the bet on the Ravens either. I've been saying all season this team's overrated. They're not a good team, and once again, I've been proven correctly. Yes, Lamar Jackson was expecting him to play better yesterday, but there's a way you beat Lamar Jackson. It's pretty simple. You do what the Dolphins did on Thursday night. You bring a lot of pressure on him. You sack him. You blitz him. That's what Pittsburgh did yesterday. They sacked him 7 times. J.J. Watt got to Lamar 4 times. That's all you got to do. That's really not that hard. I mean, it's a pretty easy game plan. Look at this offensive line for the Ravens. 29th in adjusted sack rate. Not a good team. 28th in adjusted rushing yards. It's not a good team. Devontae Freeman is their lead back. This is not a good team. This is not last year's Dobbins, Edwards, Ingram offense. Meanwhile, the Bengals, They were fine yesterday. Was it disappointing? Was it shocking? Yeah, they made too many mistakes. That's what teams do. That's what young teams do. They battled back, got into that game. They had Mixon had a fumble return for a touchdown. Jamar Chase had a touchdown that he bobbled and it turned into an interception. Joe Burrow threw a red zone touchdown or interception. They just made too many mistakes. I still believe in the Bengals and not in the Ravens.
Yeah, Jules, Ravens 1-2 in divisional games too, and now all of a sudden the Steelers once again haunting the rest of the division.
Yeah, I guess the odds on the Steelers, when you look at the standings and how jumbled up they are, it's anyone's division. So I guess I'm not betting the division. If you made me bet the division, sure, give me the longest odds if you're giving me like a free bet on it, and that's the Steelers. So I don't know. This division's all summed up by that Ravens finish, the Bengals having 2 turnovers from Chase and Mixon that arguably could have completely flipped that game. It's just not something I'm willing to bet on. If you want one bet from me in the AFC North right now, I will bet Cleveland money line next week with Baltimore coming into Cleveland. Cleveland's coming off a bye. Cleveland just lost a grinder in Baltimore. It's a bounce back spot, and the Ravens lose another cornerback. Like, if you want one thing from me in the AFC North, the Browns are beating the Ravens on Sunday, and that's all I'm willing to commit to.
All right, Geoff. Can the Ravens get past their offensive issues enough to bet them? Their schedule's daunting. Look at this. They finished up with Cleveland, Green Bay, Cincinnati, the Rams, and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even blame Julian for having commitment issues. It's the AFC North here. I mean, what are we talking about? But I am with Pearce. I mean, I think that the team that's looked the best all year, and I'm not saying they're an elite team, but it's the Bengals. I mean, their defense has been spotty in starts, but Burrow got them back into that game. Joe Burrow just needs to stop turning the ball over like in the first 5 minutes of every game, and the Bengals probably just win out here. But if you look at the schedules for the AFC North, we're almost in like a round robin format. These teams are all playing themselves multiple times or playing each other multiple times before the end of the year. So you're really in a situation where you shouldn't be taking the favorite, because there's no way that the Ravens are like big favorites versus any of these teams right now. And I like the spot with the Bengals because they have a game over the Browns and the Steelers, and they also match up against all these teams. Like, they play the Ravens again, so their destiny is still in their own hands. I think the Bengals at plus 225 is the best odds. Now, about the Steelers, I think if you're going to take that Bengals bet, maybe sprinkle a little on the Steelers at plus 1,400 as well, because it's a little bit of a hedge, and if Ben somehow runs the table, you got the big odds. Again, the Steelers also have game in hands against the division too. So that's how I'd be playing this. The Bengals are really the team you should be hammering, though.
So Miami plus 800 to make the playoffs. And in a crowded AFC playoff race, the Dolphins have as good a chance as anyone to sneak into that 7th spot. Is that an overreaction, Jules?
Probably not. I'm just scrolling through the standings now. Like, I want to try and find teams that are better than them, and there are teams that are better than them, but the Dolphins are playing better right now. So there might be enough bad teams in the AFC for them to pull this off. It's probably not going to happen. The no is minus 1,600. The yes is plus 800. But there are, Indy has crawled its way back after a 3-0 start, but we're always a Carson Wentz injury away or a Jonathan Taylor injury away from them no longer being nearly as relevant. And we have that AFC North, as we just talked about, kind of cannibalizing each other. At plus 800, you can interest me there. They're probably not going to get there, but I think the price for how good they're playing right now is well worth it. They're as good as these other middling teams that have playoff hopes. The question is, did they just shoot themselves in the foot too many times to begin the season?
Yeah, Geoff, how much interest here would you have in betting the Dolphins to make the playoffs? They're on a bye this week, but they do host the Jets next week.
It's an interesting spot for sure. I mean, there is a situation where they may not even have to win out. Like, they may just have to go 3-1, and maybe they sneak in via a tiebreaker or something. Look, they play the Jets, then they're on the road at the Saints, Titans, and then they finish up with the Patriots. I think it comes down to, are the Patriots resting players that week? If they have to go up against a full bore Patriots team, like there's not enough there. And even that, like, they have 2 road games in a row against one good team in the Titans and one like kind of failing team in the Saints, but still going into New Orleans and just grabbing a win, that's not an automatic. I don't think there's quite enough here. You're also asking them to bypass the Bengals, the Chargers. The Colts are at 7-6. I just don't think it's going to happen. Like Jules said, the no here is at a very big price for a reason. I don't think you're getting enough to bet. I'd want to see probably plus 1,200. So I'm going to say no, stay away from this one, but it's certainly like an outcome that could happen. Not for me.
Okay, is it for you, Pearce?
Yeah, I'll jump on this. You need to monitor the Jalen Waddle injury, so download the DK Live app to find out what's going on there. But if he's going to play, they've got enough weapons. With Gaskin, Gesicki, Devontae Parker is back. Tua's playing well. The biggest weakness on this team is the offensive line. But if you look at Tua's stats, he has adjusted. His pocket time is one of the shortest in the league, which you say, well, that's bad. He's being rushed. Technically, in terms of getting hit and quarterback hurries, it's also pretty low. So he's adjusted to the line not playing well. They've been pretty productive. They've held opponents to 17 points or fewer over the last 5 games. Now, if you look at those opponents, it's been pretty soft. But as Geoff mentioned, the rest of the schedule is still pretty soft. They've got a bye week. They've got the Jets. They've got the Saints. They've got an overrated Titans team. And it will all come down to that Patriots game, the final game of the season. They probably need to run the table. But you look at the schedule, you look at what they've been doing, they're coming off the bye. I think they can get it done, especially if the Patriots don't necessarily need that win at Miami in the final week.
I'm not quite sure what Minnesota and what the Vikings can get done right now because everyone has been put on notice in that organization. The Vikings lose to the Lions with Dalvin Cook injured. Then they lose Adam more than a Thielen to an ankle injury. It feels like their season is absolute toast. Odds makers have them at minus 360 right now to not make the playoffs. What's your gut telling you here, Geoff? The biggest Kirk Cousins hater I know.
My gut tells me that the Vikings will probably go into the final week of the season needing a win against the Bears to get in and lose the game. That's probably that seems like the most Kirk Cousins way to end this year.
And that will probably save Matt Nagy's job too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Save that. Yeah, that would just work out perfectly. I'll be dead honest. I actually don't hate taking the Vikings on right now to make the playoffs. Like, who are we? Like, there's no dominant team in the NFC. Are we really that high on Washington all of a sudden? I like Washington, but the 49ers have proven time and time again, this is a team that will also let you down in the most easy of spots, much like last week. So I just don't think that there's any dominant team in the race for like the last playoff spot because it's pretty clear. We're just talking about one wild card spot. I don't think the Rams are going to implode to the point where they bring teams back in the conversation. But Washington, again, 49ers, these are also teams that can't be trusted. I don't hate taking on the Vikings here. I think they're at big enough odds. And I don't, the injuries, whatever, they still have Justin Jefferson. You can replace running backs. I'm not too worried about that. I'm just looking at the standings and the teams in front of them. And I still think the Vikings are at least as good or better than some of those teams they're going up against. So I think with the big odds you're getting, they're actually an interesting play to make the playoffs right now.
What's crazy is the NFC East could send like up to 3 teams to the postseason right now. And it's a division that sent 2 teams to the playoffs just twice in the last 11 years. Pearce, how do you feel about betting the Vikings here?
Didn't Washington make the playoffs last season? So, this is 2021. You're not going to be able to rule anyone out until the final week. And even then, I don't even know how that's going to work. But so, yeah, the Vikings have a chance. Did they lose to the Lions? Yeah. Should they have lost the Lions the first time? Yes, they should have. But if you want to play woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you go through the Lions schedule, the Lions are just about a 500 team. So that's not the worst possible loss in the world. The Lions are a decent team. They just can never get it done. They almost choked again yesterday. The issue I have with the Vikings is just too many injuries. Kirk Cousins was inconsistent when he had Cook, when he had Thielen, and he had a really good offensive line. But now he's lost Thielen, he's lost Cook, and there's injuries all throughout that defense. They're an above-average defense probably to start the season, but they've lost their entire defensive line. They're dealing with linebacker issues every other week. They're dealing with DB issues every other week. You combine all those defensive injuries with Thielen and Cook, the inconsistency of Kirk Cousins, and it looks like they shouldn't make it, but like Geoff said, it's going to come down to last week. Flip a coin. Maybe they beat the Bears. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jules, there is that massive logjam in the NFC at 5-7, but Minnesota has the top spot among that group.
Pearce just gave out one of the hottest takes in the history of the sweat, and we just stumble right over it. We're entering week 14, and the Lions have won 1 game, and Pearce says they're about a 500 team. Wrong. Wrong by a mile.
They have not been. Hey, the Lions have not been eliminated from playoff contention here, dude.
What do they have? Like 2 overtime
All right,
losses.
then
The
forget betting the
Justin Tucker
Vikings for the
game.
playoff. Forget
I'm
betting
with
the Vikings
Pearce.
for the
Go
playoffs. If the
Lions.
Lions are just about 500. Let's bet the Lions to make the playoffs.
Yes, Pearce.
I need to see
playoff?
Pearce's ticket on his Lions to make the playoffs bet because they're just about 500 entering Week 14. It's time to go get them. All right, Vikings. Sure, like mathematically, maybe they're a good bet. Like it's a good time to buy low. They lose to the Vikings. It was baked in. Or sorry, they lose to the Lions. It's baked in that they should have won that game. So that's why their playoff odds were like just about a pick 'em entering the week. So now you're getting good value if this team can bounce back. I actually don't hate them on Thursday night hosting the Steelers, who are kind of at a sell high on the Steelers, buy low on the Vikings after what we saw on Sunday on the short week on Thursday night. So I don't hate their odds to bounce back, but in the end, I'm with Geoff on just like Kirk Cousins is not my guy. We've seen him take knees when he meant to spike the ball and run the clock out to end halves. We've seen him line up under the wrong guy. Like, the dude's brain just isn't there. I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy, so I'm not in on this.
Dude, every Google Lions making playoffs, the headline for almost every article is like, here are the 45 things that need to happen for the Lions to make the playoffs. So, yeah, Detroit is on the board. And I mean, let's be real. If they played the Jaguars next week, the Lions would win by 2 touchdowns. They are not the first team to be eliminated from the playoffs, as we have mentioned. That honor goes to the 2-10 Texans. No odds for the top pick in the draft here, guys, but it could play a part in obviously which player goes number 1. With 5 games left for each team, will we see the Texans or the Lions with the top pick come April, Pearce?
Okay, I'm punting the question. I want to go through this Detroit schedule. They almost beat San Francisco. They should have beat Baltimore.
Yep.
They should have beat Minnesota the first time. They should have beat Pittsburgh. They barely lost by 3 to Cleveland. They barely lost to Chicago by 2.
Yeah.
That's 6 wins. Add 6 wins to their schedule and take away the losses. That's a 500 team.
Yeah, dude. Pearce, no argument from me. It's
Next
Julian.
guy.
It's Julian who disagrees
There's
with
no
you.
chance.
I mean, the only
Super Bowl.
problem with all those games that you just gave out that they won is that they actually lost.
They covered probably.
They're a great cover team. Now they're like
Good
7-4
ATS team.
or something. I mean,
All right, Pearce.
Dan Campbell.
Pierce, who gets the top spot in the draft? Who do you think? Is it going to be the Texans or the Lions? The Lions currently hold the number 1 spot.
Well, you can't pick the Lions.
Yeah, I can't pick. The
No,
Lions.
because they're a
going to the
500
Super Bowl.
football team.
That's right.
Yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. It's got to be Texans.
All right, Geoff.
All right, I'm going to attempt some actual analysis on this question. If you look at the schedules, the Lions do have, they have like 3 winnable games. They have the Broncos, the Falcons, and the Seahawks on the schedule. Again, we've seen them play good teams close. The Texans had to replace Tyrod Taylor with Davis Mills last week. They can't score. They're terrible. The Texans are going to get the number 1 overall draft pick. Absolutely.
All right, Jules.
I mean, if it's Texans with Davis Mills, I don't hate it. Like in theory, it should be the Lions. They should.
Did you see Davis Mills play last week?
Yeah, no, he stinks. I've seen him play a couple times.
Okay,
I love
good.
Davis Mills because you can bet against him. If the Lions were smart, they would hold down this number 1 pick. But I know that they want to win for some odd reason. So I think this is going to be very close. I think that the Texans, given their schedule, probably have a better chance. Like, the Lions could win 1 more game. What happens if both of them win 2 games?